The time for convening has arrived, so we will start this evening series of meetings, starting with our work session. The first item on the work session is a Colonial Pipeline Chattahoochee River Dig Maintenance Project update by Mr. Chip Little. Mr. Little, welcome.
Mayor, members of council, good to see you all again. I think it has been exactly 7 months to the day that we were here before you to talk about previewing our project crossing the river and the maintenance project that we had. I have with me tonight Mr. Kelvin Turner, who is the senior project manager for this project. I also have Mr. Terry Mock, who is the land management and right-of-way coordinator for the project as well. I will have Mr. Mock come up and give you an overview of where we are today, kind of where we are schedule-wise, and the work that has been done and what you can expect going forward. So we do that.
Mr. Mock.
Good evening. How are y'all? Mayor, council members. As Chip mentioned, we were here back in April to kind of give you an update of our maintenance activities that we have that are both in Cobb County and in the city of Sandy Springs. So previously, we had showed you a display of a bridge that we would be building across the river from Cobb County through the Park Service and then make landfall into the city. So it's the Chattahoochee River project, so it's maintenance on our Line 2 pipeline. Since that time, we have had the fire department from Sandy Springs and Cobb County come out to visit. We had them in a joint meeting so that we could make them familiar with the project, including the swiftwater rescue in the event that they had to deploy to the river, that they wouldn't be surprised with what they would find. We've also had some council members and staff that have come and visited in mid-July. And so, again, we felt like this was a good opportunity to come and give y'all an update on our project. So the drawing before you is a depiction of the bridge footprint across the river, and then we are constructing a cellular cofferdam that will isolate the section of the river for us to be able to excavate and do this maintenance activity on the pipeline. So we are about to complete the cellular cofferdam. We have 2 cells that are left to be constructed. So this is the bridge. So in September, we completed the bridge from the Cobb County side to just shy of the Sandy Springs side and started to construct the cellular cofferdam. So each of the cells are 23 feet in diameter. The cell to the left, the insert that is in the middle of the cell is a template, and then the cell is constructed around that. And then once the circle is completed, they lift that template out of the way, and then we fill the cell with river sand and then with aggregate, where we are using the upstream portion of the cofferdam to move materials and equipment to make landfall in Sandy Springs. So this was taken at the end of September. So this is an aerial view of the bridge and the upstream cellular cofferdam, and just in the background of the photo is the Johnson's Ferry crossing bridge. So to give you perspective of where this bridge is in relationship to that interchange. This is a view from the Cobb County side looking across the bridge. It's a substantial structure. That crane is a 180-ton crane, and that was necessary in order to build not only the bridge but the cofferdam. again, another aerial photo. You'll notice that after the T of the bridge, it steps down. That is the upstream or northern portion of the cofferdam. It will enable us to move equipment from Cobb County side onto the Sandy Springs side in order to do the excavation and maintenance work. Oh, sorry. So this is a view of the cofferdam. So this is when it was halfway constructed. So this is the upstream portion, and then we have almost completed the second half, which will create a U in order to isolate that section of the river, so that we can then excavate the pipe and do the maintenance. This drawing again is to show you the completed cell work. To the south of that, there is a series of riprap structures that we're going to put in place. That will help to de-water. When we're pumping the excavation, we're going to use large pumps to do that. The pumps are high-capacity pumps to de-water the excavation so we can get to the pipeline, do the necessary inspections, and then complete our work. So here we are 7 months into this project, and by the end of the month of November, we will be in a position to start the pipeline maintenance. So it will be roughly 8 months in timeline, calendar-wise, and it will roughly take us 30 days to do the maintenance work, and that is if the weather cooperates. So we know that we're going to have water intrusion from the ditch line of the pipeline. So there are two types of pumps we could have used. One is this one to the left, which is just an open pump, high-capacity pump. We have selected to use the cabinet pump. It has a decibel level of 69 decibels at 30 feet. So in addition to that, we will put in some mitigation measures to help ensure that the noise doesn't travel off-site. So with that, if anyone has any questions.
Any questions? Mr. Paulson, the engineer.
Thank you. Tough you got to work 8 months to be able to work for 30 days, but that's the way the world works, right?
That's right.
So when this is all finished after the 30-day activity, you're going to dismantle all this, return it back to its original shape?
That is correct. So we will remove all of the structures, the bridge, the cellular cofferdam, everything will be removed. It will take us, so right now we're anticipating 30 days, weather permitting, starting after Thanksgiving. And so we hope to have the pipeline work completed before Christmas. And then it will take us roughly 3 to 4 months to dismantle and restore the disturbed areas. To give you a sense, I don't know the quantity of steel, but we have 742 wooden mats that we have used, both on the bridge itself and then on the Cobb County side. Our staging area and work footprint has been matted with timber mats.
Any other questions? Well, it'd make a heck of a fishing pier if you left it.
Yes, it would. But our Army Corps permit does not allow us to keep it. So
All right.
it will be removed.
Fully understand that we might all could float it downriver and make the pedestrian bridge. You know, there's several possible uses that we might find for it. All right. Thank you for your presentation.
Thank you all for your time.
All right. The Crossroads Small Area Plan update. Ms. McIntosh Ross.
All right, let's see. All right, good evening. We good? Over here? Okay, great. Thank you so much. So, good evening, Mayor and City Council. I'm happy to be here to present at tonight's work session our Crossroads Small Area Plan update. Online. Is he online? Okay, yeah, so our project manager from RHI, our consulting firm, is online if there are any questions later on. He's just going to be on Zoom if you have any questions. Okay, so tonight I'll talk you through the plan's overview, how we executed the public process. I'll spend a little time talking about the conceptual urban design plan, and I'll also highlight some of the work plan items, and then we'll go over the next steps after tonight's meeting. Okay, so a little bit of the background. So this project was recommended in the Next 10 5-year update as a work program item. The item was to update the small area plans and to revisit the recommendations from the Roswell Road small area plan and expand on development concepts for the Crossroads area. We initiated the study in late of 2022, which was soon after the conclusion of our Next 10 update, and we retained the consulting firm RHI to provide planning and urban design services, and we also retained RKG for the market analysis for the development of this plan. We worked with the community to establish a vision for the community improvements, create a detailed land use and urban design concept for that community, that the business owners, property owners can all get behind. Create a list of recommendations that would effectively bring this vision into fruition. Just to note, a master plan or a small area plan is a guiding document similar to a comprehensive plan, and it's a long-range plan, 15 plus years of a vision document, and which it also includes action items. The approval of a master plan does not make any land use or character area or zoning map amendments. It may recommend that the city does support a petition for a map amendment, but it would proceed with the usual normal public hearing process with community meetings, public hearings, planning commission, and a final decision by mayor and city council. Here's our study area. The Crossroad area is just south of I-285 along Roswell Road and extending to the west to Lake Forest Drive, and to the east, including the two apartment neighborhoods, the Whitley and Harrison. It goes to the south, just south of the Target store in the Prado commercial development. During our assessment of the area, we found extreme topography ranging from 100 feet difference in elevation from the Target level to the Lake Placid Drive. So that's a lot of topography. We figured, created a challenge and contributed to the access and circulation problems that we experience in the Prado, and also the lack of connectivity to the surrounding neighborhoods. Lake Placid Drive is the primary east-west connector along with Northwood Drive. And besides Roswell Road, Kingsport Drive and Lake Forest provide some limited north-south connections. The neighborhoods in this area are mainly multifamily apartment and condo units, and it also on both sides, east and west of Roswell Road, and along Northwood Drive and Kingsport, where we have a lot of apartment units. The Prado itself is commercial, and there's limited accessibility throughout between those two. We also have a stream, Long Island Creek, and its floodplain, and you'll see later on that we're proposing to utilize that stream as a natural resource for the neighbors. Our public process. This planning process was unique in that we approached this as a bilingual one. We provided the surveys, materials, both in Spanish and English. We had teams of bilingual volunteers, facilitators, people volunteered from Lake Forest Elementary, Mount Vernon School, Community Assistance Center, Los Niños Primeros, La Amistad, friends and neighbors and residents, they all came out. Also staff members from community development as well as revenue helped us with translating. And our communication staff, thank you to Xanthi for doing a lot of the translation, most of it actually. We began the process with stakeholder and focus group meetings in January of this year, and this included interviews with property owners, residents, the Community Assistance Center, Los Niños Primeros, La Amistad, Solidarity of Sandy Springs, and also property owners of the Copeland Shopping Center, the gas station owners, representatives from Prado, council members, neighborhood folks, etc. We toured the area and established the existing conditions. We launched our survey prior to our public meeting to get interest. We went to events, did a lot of pop-ups. We created a bilingual video that we launched to social media and disseminated that throughout social groups. Okay. Yeah, so this is just some of the highlights of the feedback that we got throughout our sessions. We heard responses about paying attention to housing and maintaining the affordability, and also to minimize displacement of the existing residents, to improve the multimodal connectivity, to include bike and pedestrian improvements, to utilize the existing natural resource as an opportunity for the community, expand open space and recreation options, expand retail and restaurants, and enhance their community appearance. This just shows the responses we got. This one is in Spanish. Like I said, we did everything in English and Spanish. Here is our recommended framework based on all of the feedback we got from the first public meeting and the surveys. We found some themes that evolved. First and foremost, we wanted to preserve and protect the housing and upgrade the housing units within this area, incorporate open space and trails, improve the connectivity throughout Prado and the surrounding neighbors, also to show feasible redevelopment options for new projects. Okay, so here's our conceptual work plan, and I'll walk you through this. So based on the existing conditions analysis and all the feedback we got from that, as I mentioned before, here's the draft plan. First and foremost, to protect the existing residential neighborhoods and rehabilitate the workforce housing. Let's see if my pointer, yes, my pointer works. So these are the neighborhoods that are cited for protection. And we're not recommending redeveloping those, and therefore we will maintain our promise to protect and preserve those neighborhoods. We also want to transform the creek, Long Island Creek, and create an amenity associated with that. So that shows on this plan the creek as well as its tributaries and floodplain. Establish a connected grid of streets throughout the areas that are proposed for redevelopment. So wherever you see redevelopment sites, we're proposing an enhanced street grid. And these are the feasible redevelopment options for the specific opportunity sites to encourage additional housing opportunities and commercial retail opportunities. So mainly mixed use, increasing the housing stock, as well as providing home ownership opportunities. And we also want to create a compatible transition between the existing and also the new development. The majority of the residential neighborhoods, as I mentioned, will be protected and preserved, and we will look at opportunities for rehabilitation, maintenance of those buildings, upgrades and beautifications. The sites that have been identified for redevelopment are the Prado, as well as frontages along Roswell Road, select parcels on Northwood Drive and Lake Forest Drive. Now, the select parcels on Northwood Drive as well as on Lake Forest, now those are the limited residential parcels that are proposed for redevelopment. So for Prado, we are showing a central green. I don't know if you could see it right in here. And we're hoping that that would orient guests as you come in. We're proposing to reorganize the parking and the circulation within. We're recommending allowing additional height up to 10 floors, likely for residential and mixed-use buildings. The envisioned future site would be organized around the central green as a public amenity for community gathering, movie nights, or relaxation. The streetscape around the park would be treated, would have treated pavers and landscaping that would be lined with mixed-use buildings. And these new streets, street-level retail and with residential above is what we're hoping to create a sense of place and promote family-oriented activities. We're proposing a strong street grid, which will help ease traffic and reduce confusion as you try to maneuver throughout the Prado. And then to help with the extreme topography that we have, we're proposing some ramps and elevators that are see-through that could help people feel safe. And we're also making connections to Lake Placid Drive from Northwood all the way up to the target level. Also, additional parking garages are proposed, of course, to help with the additional residential units and the parking that would be required, as well as for the commercial. We're also considering green infrastructure to help with stormwater, and we're proposing green roofs on some of these parking decks. The redevelopment sites that fronts Roswell Road, we're proposing 3 to 5 floors. For select sites on Northwood Drive, we're proposing also 3 to 4 floors of residential and some commercial mixed use on the ground floor. And the parcels along Lake Forest, those are currently 4 single unit housing, and we're proposing some additional units by converting those to townhomes, a townhome neighborhood, single unit attached. Okay, so these are an example of some of the work program items that I pulled. We'll have a full list in the actual draft plan. So related to housing, as I mentioned, encourage and protect, preserve and rehabilitate the existing affordable housing or workforce housing, enhance the quality of life for the existing residents, enhance and encourage the replacement of the workforce housing units as we have redevelopment. So we want to also have some units that would be in a similar price point. Related to open space, we want to utilize the natural resource areas as opportunities for community amenities, require usable open space for the redevelopment parcels. Encourage the construction of a greenway system with a multi-use trail and boardwalks along the Long Island Creek and its tributaries. Oops. Okay. Related to connectivity, throughout the redevelopment, we want to establish a connected street grid and enhance, okay, I'm not touching it. Okay, okay, good, that's where I'm at. With the street grid, we want to enhance the bike and pedestrian connections throughout the destinations within the study area, as well as connections to transit. Improve the safety and comfort of the pedestrian environment. Related to redevelopment, we want to encourage redevelopment of the select sites that we chose, and to create a series of mixed-use nodes near Roswell Road and Northwood Drive, while providing a range of new housing options and recreation amenities. And where appropriate, we want to evaluate options for the city's participation to incentivize and encourage redevelopment at these identified sites. All right, so these are our next steps. So the draft plan will be available on our website tomorrow, by end of business day tomorrow. And you can go to the website at spr.gs/crossroads, and you'll find it there. Next week, Monday, I'll be at the Planning Commission for public hearing and give the presentation, and they will be making a recommendation to provide to the mayor and city council if to approve or to deny. And on December 5th, I'll be back before you, another public hearing with a resolution for your consideration to adopt. If the community has any comments, or if you have any comments on the plan, an email can go to masterplan@sandyspringsga.gov. Any questions?
Yeah, I've got one. I'm real concerned about the Prado.
Mm-hmm.
You're going up to 10 stories.
Recommended, yes.
Why?
Well, we talked with the Prado, and the redevelopment.
So the Prado gets to make these decisions?
No, they're not making the decisions. We just talked about what could be useful in that area, and based on our market analysis with the area, we felt like that site could use and that height of building for residential use, and that would help with the support for any new commercial. Now, in addition to that, the circulation, as we all know, within the Prado is a bit of a problem.
More than a bit of a problem.
Yeah, yes. And
That's not understated. Okay?
Yes, no, I agree. And so with a redevelopment at that caliber, as you know, it would be a development of regional impact as well. And so a lot of the circulation issues would be able to get worked out through that process as well.
What prevents them from coming in and if we pass this plan and say, well, you've approved 10 stories, I'm going to go ahead and build that, and then I'll come back later and do this other stuff? How do we avoid that?
Which other stuff? So
All the street grids and everything
Oh,
else.
no, yes. So the plan has to be a comprehensive plan to where if they get approved, if they come for rezoning and they get approved for the 10 stories, because they do have to do that, they would have to come through, again, with the public process. So they would need to come through the public process, come before this board and approve it at that point. And at that point, all of their circulation needs to be on there.
So they have to do all of this before they get the additional height.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
So they have to basically tear down everything they got over there and redo it. Is that correct?
Well, it doesn't have to be everything. It could be phased.
That's my concern.
Okay.
It can be phased.
So, Mayor, to that end, exactly what Michelle said. So anything with redevelopment at the Prado, we are not recommending at this time that the city rezone those parcels. What we are recommending is that they would have to come before you all with a plan on how they would do that. We could set very specific conditions of zoning and all of that sort of thing associated with any rezoning request, and there would be a full public process associated with that to come before you all for a final decision before anything could happen on that site.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Mr. DeGiulio.
Michelle, I have a little bit of concern about your talking about rehabilitation of some of these workforce housings there. Now, I haven't been in these houses over there in 30 years. But in 30 years ago, they were some of the most dilapidated and run-down housing facilities in Sandy Springs. And I'm just wondering what your idea of rehabilitation is of these places rather than redevelopment of these things, because these are most of them are two-story units, wood frame, and they just seem like they're in really bad shape, because I sometimes drive through that to get up here. And it just seems like it's going to take an awful lot of rehabilitation. I just wonder what you're thinking about in rehabilitation. You're just talking about new countertops, or are we talking about redoing the structures on there? Because even the structures on those in a lot of the places are in pretty bad shape.
Mm-hmm. Well, we looked at the overall area, and the sites that we are recommending for redevelopment are the units that were in the worst or most rough shape, and maybe the ones that you were speaking of. The ones that we are recommending to preserve and with some rehabilitation are those that, based on the community feedback, that they felt like they wanted to keep those. And then if there were any options for rehabilitation, countertops, interiors are also an option, but any repairs associated with the building, yes, we are thinking of that as well. I haven't gone inside. We've driven around. Mm-hmm.
I think if you go and actually see these places, you're going to find out that they're a lot worse than you might think they are. As I say, I haven't been in them in 30 years. That's how bad they are. I mean, 30 years ago they were bad.
Mm-hmm.
And when we first formed the city, they were in bad shape.
Mm-hmm.
And so I just can't imagine that they've gotten to the point where they only need some rehabilitation rather
Mm-hmm.
than redevelopment.
Mm-hmm. Now, don't forget, we also have the program that we'll be launching next year with the inspections of 100% of the units, and so we'll identify those at that point. Mm-hmm.
Mr. Bauman.
Thank you, Michelle. On that last point, nothing in this plan, there's some aspects of this that's aspirational. I mean, really what you might call, I think, the affordable rehabilitation, protected, we're not really taking, I mean, that's another way of saying sort of status quo market decision, right? I mean, there's nothing in here that would prevent an owner from redeveloping those properties. What is not in here are incentives or changes that might encourage
Correct.
some larger scale redevelopment, as I understand. Is that right? And Kristen, is that right?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, and one thing I'll add to the conversation that
Is your mic on?
helpful. Oh, can you hear me? No.
Yeah, just go
Okay.
closer, yeah.
So when we looked at this plan, one of the most important aspects was bringing in that economic consultant, because we really wanted to have a good understanding of whether or not the market would redevelop these properties. So the areas that you see that we've selected as redevelopment opportunities were the most likely to be redeveloped by the market, and the others were not. So in that case, where it doesn't look like the market would redevelop them, we still wanted to encourage enhancements to those existing units, knowing that the market is not likely to redevelop them.
Well, and I'm not sure if all of I attended a lot of those meetings and actually have been in the community, and I'm not sure it's fair, first of all, to paint with a single broad brush the condition of all of the housing units in there. Now, a lot of them are old, but they're not all falling down. There are problems, and one of the things we heard loud and clear, and Kristen, you and I were at the meeting at the park. I mean, you have people that have lived in many of these units, and we met with some owners of condos. I guess that was what's it called, Cambridge or
Kingsport.
Mm-hmm. And we met with renters and owners, many of whom have lived in some of these places for 8, 10, 15, 20 years and have been through the different cycles. And in fact, one of the things that we heard was in the community that when you uproot one, I mean, I think what you did was deal with displacement is what we're dealing with by not, again, I don't think we're doing anything affirmative. We're not providing incentives for those redevelopment per se, but I agree with 100%. When you uproot one family, one of the messages was you may uproot 5 or 4, that folks that are living there, working and rooted, oftentimes have family and friends that congregate, and they end up leasing units around each other. So I would be very cautious about painting anything with a broad brush. I do want to note that I've heard some comments from neighbors on Lake Forest Drive on the outer edge, and just to be aware that some are concerned that 3 or 4 single-family lots, we're proposing that, again, up to the market if they want to do it, but we're going to allow townhomes. And I've certainly heard those and continue to hear comments about that. I think one of the points of this is to, create some transitional for the crossroads to create a transitional lower density once you cross Roswell Road, not just go to high density 4-story, 5-story stuff like we're doing on Roswell Road, but at the Lake Forest side, some transitional. And while we can't condition a rental versus owner, the nature of the housing is fee simple and sort of separate townhomes, and we do have an overarching problem of housing, an undersupply of housing, and this is a way to basically take 4 lots that are, really in bad condition, underutilized, and unless somebody, they're free to build their own single-family house still back there, but to create a condition by which some additional housing can be provided in the area. I do want to go to the Prado. To the mayor's question, as I understand it, we create this zone, this possibility of 10, but also as part of that, to get to 10, in addition to applying, additioning to have a condition, I don't know if it's conditional use permit or a full approval, don't they also have those bonus points that they have to earn? Isn't there a table? Don't those two things relate in this case? Can you explain that just briefly, and then I have one more follow-up on that.
Yeah, and those are related to the upcoming code edit, which it's not approved yet, but yes, in order to get to 10, we're proposing a new zoning district, which is 6-10, so 6 by right, and then 10 with the bonus points, and so there'll be a lot of public interest projects that would need to be done in order to get approved for that 10
Yeah, and that's not as of right. Let me ask you, is it staff's recommendation for 10, or is staff listening to different stakeholders, some community, some elected, some
everyone
wherever, and did we just sort of split a baby here, or was there consideration? Because look, if you're opposed to 10, you're opposed to 10. But if you're in favor of 10, or you're okay with 10 because you say to yourself, well, look, this Prado development, it was an interesting attempt, but it's not what we want 30 years from now. We want change there. We have a certain number of nodes in the southern end of the city. What is there really a difference? But I can get, if you're against 10, that's fine. But why not 12? What's the magic between 10 or 12? Understanding there could be somebody completely opposed to even 10. Are you all willing to weigh in on 10 v. 12, or no, not so much?
Well, I think the market does speak to, when we did the market study, that 12 would work as well, based on the market, that you could get units filled at 10 stories.
Well, I guess the question is, you either want a new project or you don't. You want redevelopment or you don't. And does 12 get you, and I'm just going to leave this as rhetorical, actually, does that get you more of an opportunity to get the redevelopment that you want? With this thing. And then the last question I have may be rhetorical, but I'd like to see it, whether it's with this or other projects. I remain pretty convinced that from a traffic and infrastructure impact, that a few hundred multifamily units, call it apartments, whatever you want to call it, are less impactful than successful retail, right? Like that a thriving Starbucks or Dunkin' Donut drive-through plus a thriving restaurant that does lunch and dinner business, and pick the mix of a Target and the retail that you've got, that really on the scale of things, residential happens to be lower intensity. And I'd love to see some data that would either prove me right or prove me wrong, that we get caught up on impact on traffic and infrastructure when housing is being discussed. And yes, that's true when you're comparing it to nothing or dead or vacant or dark housing, which serves nobody. But when the fair comparison is to the alternative use of what would be thriving retail, that I think you would find your housing is lower impact. And this particular property has a unique ability to really have live, work, play within it. Now, I'm suggesting a position, but I'm open to conversation. And I do want to think about the 10 versus 12. Again, once you could be opposed to it, but if you're in favor of 10, is there really such harm with 12? All right, I'll yield. Thank you.
Okay.
Anybody else? Dr. Kelly.
Thank you. Right. Just have a couple of questions, sort of piggybacking some of the other questions. Regarding the economic analysis, will the document that's made available tomorrow, will it go into much detail about the economic analysis part of this?
It'll be in the appendix portion.
Okay. What was the just general scope of that analysis? What all did they look at?
Okay, yeah, so they looked at all of the neighborhoods, the residential, the apartment complexes, there's several in there, looked at the age of the units, looked at was there a mortgage or not, the value of the land, combination of all those things, and looked at its redevelopment potential and its ability to be able to pencil out for redeveloping, whether it's a demolition and bringing it back up, and how many stories would you need to make that work out financially. So those scenarios were looked at, and that's how we came up with the sites that had the greatest potential for investment and redevelopment if it did redevelop.
Did we look at any retail-related scenarios, just to get a sense of how
Yeah.
viable?
Yeah, so the retail is embedded. So, so we're proposing mixed use, so it's ground floor retail, commercial, and residential above.
Okay. Because we're doing it, it seems like an adjacent, development code exercise right now. Are any of those items we're looking at in that exercise informed by this?
Yeah,
Or-
we talked with both firms, and staff worked on both together.
So that new district you just mentioned, that's a part of that 16
Well,
district?
So this Crossroads plan is recommending some additional heights. For instance, we just talked about 10, probably at Prado, and some heights along Roswell Road. We don't currently have a district that allows that.
And it's not in the proposal either. Those aren't in the proposal.
No, the districts are in the proposal for the code update, yes.
Oh, okay.
The new districts, yes.
Great. Was there any discussion or any input from your stakeholders around MARTA and a need to upgrade any facilities?
Yeah, so this plan is recommending upgrades to bus shelters and bus facilities for folks to have a better seat or to wait on the bus. And by the way, the number 5 is one of the highest performing routes in MARTA's system, is what I heard, and that runs right up and down Roswell Road.
Okay, that's great. I'm sorry. I was trying to, I lost track of my questions. I am interested in how close our master trail plan comes to this area. Or does it come through this area? Or you mentioned green amenities and green amenities.
So I'm not sure if we have any
Is there any overlap?
specifically in here, but we are proposing trails along throughout the redevelopment sites, as well as along the creek, as we mentioned, and eventually, of course, that would connect to the wider trail
things
system.
we're already doing over there.
Councilwoman, there is a conversation about the top-end trails along 285. This area is challenging.
Okay.
So we tried to tie in to the extent possible of what this could look like in the future, but there are a lot of challenges around a consistent trail in this area.
Okay. One last question, since we have that slide pulled up. So if I'm thinking about green space, you have, I guess that's the Northwood Park, which already exists, correct?
Yes.
And then there's another space, it looks like in the Prado envision, that's
Yes.
more on the greener side. And then other than that, nothing really intentionally, like green recreational?
Well, along Northwood, we're proposing, so within, say, that happened with the redevelopment of the townhomes, we're proposing some pocket parks within there that the public would be able to use.
Oh, I see now. Okay. All right, well, thank you.
Mr. Paulson.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you for this. I know you guys spent a lot of time and effort on this. And I think the community came out in force several times, so that's good news. Let's assume we approve this next month. We're essentially saying to the property owners in this area, these are some ideas that the city thinks might be viable in your area.
Yeah.
If you're interested put a plan together, come to us, and if it aligns somewhat, at least aligns with these ideas, we'll consider it.
Yes,
Because we really don't own any property down there.
we don't.
It's really just giving some ideas to the folks down there that they may or may not pick up on. But that's the purpose of this. With that said, have we contacted all the property owners that we're talking about down here and just made them aware that we're doing this study? And it sounds like you've talked to some of them.
We've talked to
Yep.
some. It's difficult to get to all of them. We have list upon list of property owners and stakeholders that we send emails out to. Some of them show up and some don't.
Okay, well, it all rests with them in terms of actually getting something done. So let's just make sure everybody that we can, we'll let them know that this is happening.
Yeah.
And we'll see what comes of it. But thank you very much.
Yes, I'll let all of the folks that attended all of the meetings and all the previous lists of people that we emailed that we're having the public hearings coming up next week and in December.
One last question. As you probably know, the plan for the transit involves the use of the managed lanes. And there is a plan to put a station at Roswell Road. How have you incorporated that into this plan?
So when we see the draft, you'll see that we have a swath sort of an area because that actual spot has not been identified. But
Well, we need to go ahead and identify it for them.
okay, well, it wouldn't be in this plan.
Why not?
We'll have the Public Works folks take a look at that and make their recommendations there. They did look at this
I mean,
plan.
if we're doing a plan for this area, a MARTA station in there is fairly significant, isn't it?
Yes.
Shouldn't we plan for it?
We have identified a general area.
Okay.
So the report states that there's a MARTA station plan, and this is the general area the city's going to set aside.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I don't know. That's where we've got to give them some guidance, is where we want to see the station go.
Yeah.
So, yeah, they do, but I mean, the question is where's the most efficacious
Yeah,
place
and Rusty,
for
a
the
lot of it
station?
near Roswell Road, well, if it relates to
Yeah,
285, is not in part, I mean, the stuff that backs up to, I mean, you've got the ice rink, you've got, a lot of the redevelopment areas are not even in that general area as I
No.
look at this. But I agree that,
Yeah.
the original premise of why don't we, is well taken, that we ought to try to dictate as much as we can where it would be best for us. But I presume it's along 285. It's not on Roswell
It
Road.
is. It's on it's at the intersection of Roswell Road and 285.
Right. And I don't know.
So the question is where do we put it?
And that will be studied later.
Yeah, but what happens? I mean, the reason we don't have a northern arc today is because the Georgia Department of Transportation never told those local governments where they wanted it to go, and the local governments never told the Georgia Department of Transportation where they wanted to go, and by the time they got ready to build it, it was already developed. So we need to make sure that we have incorporated that element. I mean, that's a huge aspect of the plan, and if we haven't really figured that out yet, we've got a faulty plan.
I wouldn't say so, though, because
Well, we
this plan
may agree
focused
to
on
disagree then.
Okay, yes.
Mayor, has MARTA weighed in on this other than the concept talking points?
No, but it has been identified that there would be the only Sandy Springs station would be at Roswell Road. If we don't incorporate it, if we don't plan for it, then we will not have a station.
There's been conversation that it would be actually on the north side of 285.
But we got all the low-income housing on that side. The people who most need it
Good point.
are there.
And it would not require them to cross 285.
Right.
But
So it makes sense that we put a plan for a MARTA station in here.
let us take a look at it and see if we can identify something on this side of the interstate. To Councilman Bauman's point, potentially in that GDOT
Yeah.
area would make most sense, since it is not currently developed.
Okay. That's just an important aspect of, if we're doing a plan,
Agree.
the most important part of it would be the transit, how we move those people around through there. All right. We'll move on. Thank
Okay.
you.
All right.
Didn't
Thank
mean
you.
to cross-examine you.
No problem.
All right.
I've been doing this a long time. Thank you.
We want to just make sure we get it done right.
Yes.
All right, moving to regular order. I'd like to call this meeting of the Sandy Springs City Council to order for Tuesday, the 8th? 7th of November, 2023. Will the city clerk please call the roll and make the general announcements?
Good evening, Mayor. Excuse me, there we go. Good evening, Mayor and Council. First, I'd just like to remind everybody in attendance to silence all cell phones and other electronic devices. Individuals who would like to provide public comment at a city council meeting are required to complete and submit a public comment card in advance of the meeting. Those cards were available online at the chamber entrance. Just a reminder, those providing public comment may be allotted up to 3 minutes to speak on their single chosen topic. As I call roll, please confirm your attendance. Mayor Rusty Paul.
Present.
Councilmember John Paulson.
Here.
Councilmember Melody Kelly.
Present.
Councilmember Melissa Mueller.
Here.
Councilmember Jody Rochelle. Absent. Councilmember Tibby DiGiulio. Councilmember Andy Bauman.
Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Madam Clerk, have you received any public comment cards?
Yes, we've received 8 this evening. They're all in-house. First, we have Masood Zahidi, who will be followed by Lawrence Cass.
Good evening, everyone. Long time no see. I came here today for a concern I have about that Carpenter Drive. For the last 25 years, even before the city being incorporated, I started doing development the Carpenter Drive. I don't know if you know or not, Carpenter Drive is a horseshoe street, is a very short street. For the last 25 years, I've done about $30 million development in that street. I spent roughly about $1 million on the sidewalk, and the city of Sandy Springs didn't spend $1 on the sidewalk project, or lighting, or beautification. There is one section of sidewalk in the Carpenter Drive, in the top of the curve, which is the blind spot, and that 150 feet is missing. There is no sidewalk in the both sides of the Carpenter Drive, and that 150 feet is a very dangerous location, is in the curve, and there are a bunch of senior live there, and a bunch of Mexicans live in the condominium apartment, which have a bunch of kids, and there are some operation going on. I don't know what kind of operation is for a mentally ill people. There are 8 houses. They have about 40 beds. They treat mentally ill people. And all these peoples walk in the street because there is no sidewalk. 5 years ago, I talked with TB, if he remembered it, and I followed through paperwork. I filed a complaint with the public work, and they told me, yes, we studied, and I jumped through all the hoops. And they finally told me a couple of years ago, it's a priority for us. We're going to do that 150 feet of the sidewalk on the Carpenter Drive. And we're going to do it this year. A couple of weeks ago, I called the public work. I said, the year coming to the end, what happened with the sidewalk? And they told me, we thought you're going to do another project and you're going to improve the last piece of sidewalk. That's why we budgeted, you budgeted. Somehow I think that was in priority, and you guys left the money for it. And they told me, we have a budget for it. We're going to do it in 2003. So a couple of weeks ago, I called them and said, what happened with the sidewalk? And they told me, oh, we thought you're going to do another project in the Sandy Spring, and you're going to do the sidewalk. And we spend the money on something else. And that really pissed me off. I wanted to know who did that. This is not, of course, everybody come in here and think their project and their sidewalk and their street is most important. But this is really important. If you tell the public work, whoever is there, to come to me.
Mr. Massoud, your time's up. You need to wrap up real quick.
Okay. I was wondering, how can I just make the wheel going on, and this project is already approved? Who should I contact? Say, you put a budget for 150 square feet of sidewalk in the very dangerous life safety concern in the city.
City managers.
I'll be happy to speak with you. Call my office and we'll make an appointment to discuss your concerns.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next.
Lawrence Cass, who is followed by Jane Kelly.
All right.
Good evening.
Good evening.
My name is Lawrence Cass. I'm here as a Sandy Springs resident and owner of the home at 7236 Thornhill Lane. I'd first like to thank the mayor and members of City Council for affording me the opportunity to speak tonight in favor of Agenda Item 2023-310 to construct the 7236 Thornhill Lane Drainage Improvement Project. It has taken us a long time to get here, and I'd like to thank all who have worked hard on this project. Specifically, I'd like to recognize city employee Chris Venisette, whom without, I'm not sure this project could have reached a vote. That said, I feel it's important that I speak this evening to inform our elected officials of the delays, frustration, and disappointment my family and I have felt in pursuit of this project, such that fellow Sandy Springs residents do not encounter the same issues, and that perhaps improvements can be made. You see, the city of Sandy Springs was aware that improvements were needed and acknowledged this failed storm drain system as early as April 22, 2009, over 14 and a half years ago. In 2016, this failed storm drain flooded our home, and when we reached out to city officials, we were told it was our responsibility to maintain this drain. Each rainstorm since has brought fresh bouts of anxiety for me, my wife, and our 2 children. Vacations away would leave us wondering if we would come home to a house full of water. We tried many ways to control this issue, from burying drains, using different forms of landscaping, and even consulting with a well-known waterproofing company. At the time, all of this was done at our expense. Nothing seemed to permanently work. Our home has flooded 3 of the last 4 years. I'm not sure if any of you have ever had to deal with water pouring into your home. I can assure you it is not fun. Each time this occurred, my family was forced to work feverishly, often in the middle of the night, to try to mitigate damage and save as many of our belongings as we could. We began seriously working with the city on a design to fix this problem in December of 2021, only after we filed a claim with the city's insurance company for reimbursement of damages incurred from a flood that September. To say that the dialogue and transparency as to the progress of this project has been constant or clear over the past 2 years would be inaccurate. I would suggest that given the same set of circumstances, other residents may have now pursued legal action. We have simply wanted to fix the problem. To that end, we have worked with the city these past 3 years in good faith. I am here tonight to hear directly from you that the city intends to do the same. Previously, I would have likely taken your word. However, with the recent public release of bids, the amounts of which are well above what we were told a month
Mr. Cass, your time's up. I need you to hurry up and wrap it up.
We're well above what we were told a month ago when the city reached out to negotiate the potential purchase of our home. We need reconfirmation that the city voting will be what the city is voting on this
Mr. Cass,
evening.
I need you to wrap it up. We've got some other people who are coming.
No, that's it.
Thank you. Ms. Kelly.
Who's followed by Tachi Blad.
Jane Kelly, 4590 Windsor Park Place, representing the Windsor Park Homeowners Association, which is within 500 feet of Roswell Road. This is deja vu all over again. This is my 4th time fighting retail in office neighborhood. 2017, 18, 19, COVID brought us a welcome breather. And again now. Our neighborhoods don't want it. Office neighborhood, which exists only in the neighborhood village character area, is meant to offer a low-density transition to the residential abutting it. It's meant to be different than commercial. We have 3 commercial nodes, and retailers should be limited to them. This only applies to our area south of 285. So although this may not affect you, please care about what we are fighting for. Commercial use is being jammed into office zoning. A huge list of service businesses are already permitted. Adding retail uses would allow convenience stores, vape and pawn shops, check cashing, all to please what we believe is one applicant. Mayor Paul has said it's a huge mistake when you craft policy based on one application. We agree. Protected neighborhoods deserve a transition from commercial. Properties unhappy with their zoning can go through the process to get it changed. We should not expand allowed uses to fit owners' wishes. That's like granting them a rezoning for free. Savvy Market is used as an example of boutique retail. Well, one Savvy on Roswell Road in Buckhead has a convenience store, plus 16 gas pumps and a pizza vending machine. Lovely. And speaking of gas stations, do we want a racetrack or Quick Trip on every corner? We are the gateway to Sandy Springs and should look better than the city of Atlanta, not like Buford Highway. Sandy Springs has 7 gas stations on Roswell Road inside 285. I have 9 within 2 miles of my house. We do not need or want more stations or existing stations with more pumps. We have more than enough. Gas stations are not locally owned businesses, and the largest ones employ almost no one. They do not benefit our citizens, only the corporate owners. Please do not relax regulations on gas pumps and do not allow retail in office neighborhood. That's like gifting rezonings. Don't bow to consultants, lobbyists, and lawyers over representing and protecting your citizens. We voted you into office
Ms.
to
Kelly,
do
your
so.
time's up. I need you to hurry up.
Please protect our protected neighborhoods. Otherwise, we are really unprotected neighborhoods.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Bladd.
Who's followed by Susan Major.
Tachi Bladd, 7320 Hunters Branch Drive. Speaking on the zoning code changes, I'm glad to see that you were questioning the Crossroads Small Area Plan. It is hard to look at that plan and know that this new set of rules that are proposed all will be before you December 5th. And how everything meshes together is hard to follow. You brought up the height changes that are being proposed in the small area plan, but that's just aspirational. Then you actually have concrete code changes and the proposed zoning code development plan. For example, perimeter center, it appears that the minimum heights are being stricken, so that will be, to use her words, gifting landowners the ability to redevelop certain parcels. And we don't really know what the changes will be. How close are they to transit? What the full scope will be. We don't know what we don't know. And we're also adding residential and retail together in some of the proposed changes. If you look on page 2457, under RX, you're allowing a 15,000 square foot grocery store, a 6,000 square foot retail shop, all of that in what used to be residential areas, along with uses that can vary from tattoo parlors to vape shops. You don't control use on the retail. So to me, that's a non-conforming use next to residential. Finally, your gas pumps, they mentioned that as well. You won't have them in the City Springs district. They're grandfathered in for now, but as they move out, those gas stations will be in other areas of the city. I'd recommend no change to the gas station policy. I think we have plenty of gas stations as it is, and we don't need to encourage them. If anything, I'd like to see the EV stations encouraged and the bonus table that was recommended. So in essence, lots of change. We don't know where it's going to lead, and throwing both the small area plan and these changes at the same time, I think it's very hard for the public to follow and know what the end product will be. And your questions alone show that there's still a lot of things to consider. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you. Ms. Major.
Who's followed by Karen Meisen McInerney.
I yield my time tonight. Jane covered it all, and High Point supports the Windsor Park Homeowners Association. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Meisen McInerney.
Who will be followed by Sally Duncan, who will be our last speaker.
I haven't even started talking yet. I need all my 3 minutes. Thank you. Good evening. Karen Meisen McInerney, 4604 Meadow Valley Drive. I am speaking on behalf of Cherokee Park Civic Association's 94 homes tonight. Currently, it is clear in the development code that no grading is allowed inside the rear grading setback. That language appears on page 81 of the 158-page proposed development code, section G, 3A through C. So we are against the proposed policy change that will allow grading, like construction entrances, in the rear setbacks. Then the rear setbacks no grading zone of protected neighborhood single-family lots, as it appears in paragraph 3D. These are the facts to consider. Approximately 71% of the land in Sandy Springs lies within protected neighborhood single-family lots. But approximately 89%, as an example of RD18 lot, is now open and allowed for grading related to a building and its related accessory uses. So every square inch of the 11% left in that example needs to stay protected from grading if we are to provide all the general welfare goals that are stated in the tree fund policy resolution in your packet tonight. Grading kills trees. We must not lose the 1% safe place for our existing canopy trees to grow. If staff is finding that there are too many instances during redevelopment of grading encroachments into the rear grading setback, then address those issues at the front end of development, adding 4 areas of enforcement. Number 1, more arborist code enforcement staff to prevent the bad actors from killing our existing canopy trees of all diameter breast height that reside in the grading, rear grading setback. Design number 2, design and requires sturdier and higher barriers along the rear grading setback line for better protection during construction. Enact, so they can see it. Enact larger and stiffer bad boy fines for encroaching into the no grading rear setback, similar to the speeding fine in DOT work zones. Add the mitigation zone, but require native tree canopy per our recommended tree canopy list, just not evergreens. To conclude, it's short-sighted to consider allowing construction entrances in the no grading zone. If we really care about protecting the tree canopy, keep the rear grading in violet. Consider even enlarging the rear grading setback. Seriously, make it bigger. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Meisen McInerney. Ms. Duncan.
Good evening, everyone. A little taller than she is. I just want to say thank you to the staff and City Council for doing the survey in Spanish for that area over at the Prado. I think that's amazing, and I think that one of the reasons we're such a great city is our diversity. But I am here because I live in Meadowbrook, and I went down Meadowbrook, took a right on Roswell Road, and counted the gas stations and came all the way up Roswell Road here, and counted 10 in 3.5 miles. So it makes me wonder why. I just am very much against changing this gas code. It just makes no sense to me, and I would prefer if we could just wait and do it with the 10-year plan, which is coming up soon enough, and look at it from a macro level versus just a micro level. Thank you.
Thank you. No further? No. All right, we'll close the public comment period. Thank you all for being here tonight. I'm sorry I had to cut a couple of you off, but, pardon?
I said that's life.
Well, no, I'm not going to say that, but I just hate that it has to. You can always send us emails, which many people do.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. DiGiulio.
I move approval of the meeting agenda for Tuesday, November 7th, 2023.
Mr. DiGiulio moves approval of the meeting agenda. Is there a second?
Second.
Been moved by Mr. DiGiulio, seconded by Mr. Paulson, that we approve the meeting agenda. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, we'll call the question. The question's on approval of the meeting agenda. All in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. The meeting agenda is approved. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Mayor Paul,
Dr. Kelly.
I move approval of the consent agenda.
Dr. Kelly moves approval of the consent agenda. Is there a second?
Second.
Been moved by Dr. Kelly, seconded by Ms. Mueller, that we approve the consent agenda. All in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. The item is approved. Moving to public hearings, the clerk will read the first item.
This is agenda item number 2023-305, ABL 97016. Consideration of approval of an alcoholic beverage license application for TOHC Operations, LLC, doing business as the Original Hot Chicken, Inc. Tacos at 6650 Roswell Road, Suite 40, Sandy Springs, Georgia 30328. The applicant is James M. Isaacson for consumption on the premises of wine, malt, and distilled spirits, presented by Chief Financial Officer Tony Carlisle.
Ms. Carlisle.
Good evening, Mayor Paul and City Council. This is a new application for consumption on the premises of wine, malt, and distilled spirits, TOHC Operations, LLC, DBA, the Original Hot Chicken, Inc. Tacos, 6650 Roswell Road, Suite 40, Sandy Springs, Georgia 30328. Excuse me. The applicant, James M. Isaacson, has met all requirements and staff recommends approval. This is a new application. It is in Councilwoman Melissa Mueller's district.
All right. Have we received any public comment cards? All right. We will close the public hearing. You've heard the report of the Chief Financial Officer. What's the desire of council?
Mayor Paul,
Ms. Mueller.
I move that we approve agenda item 2023-305, ABL number 97016, for the approval of alcoholic beverage license application for TOHC Operations, LLC, doing business as the Original Hot Chicken / Inc. Tacos at 6650 Roswell Road, Suite 40, Sandy Springs, Georgia 30328.
We have a motion by Ms. Mueller. Is there a second? I'll second. Motion by Ms. Mueller, seconded by Dr. Kelly, that we approve agenda item 2023-305, the alcoholic beverage license application for TOHC Operations, LLC. Any discussion? Hearing none, we'll call the question. The question's on agenda item 2023-305, the approval of an alcoholic beverage license application for TOHC Operations, doing business as the Original Hot Chicken and Inc. Tacos at 6650 Roswell Road. All in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. The item is approved. The clerk will please read the next item.
Agenda item number 2023-306. This is ABL 103876. Consideration of approval of an alcoholic beverage license application for Righteous Bar and Grill, LLC, doing business as Righteous Bar and Grill at 1155 Mount Vernon Highway Northeast, Suite 1030, Sandy Springs, Georgia 30338. Applicant is LaTanya Hope Mitchell for consumption on the premises of wine, malt, and distilled spirits, presented by CFO Tony Carlisle.
Ms. Carlisle.
This is a new application for consumption on the premises of wine, malt, and distilled spirits, Righteous Bar and Grill, LLC, DBA, Righteous Bar and Grill, 1155 Mount Vernon Highway, Northeast, Suite 1030, Sandy Springs, Georgia, 30338. The applicant, LaTanya W. Hope Mitchell, has met all requirements and staff recommends approval. This is a new application. It is also in District 3, Councilwoman Melissa Mueller's district.
Have we received any public comment cards? All right, we will close the public hearing. You've heard the report of the Chief Financial Officer. What's the desire of council?
Mayor Paul,
Ms. Mueller.
I move that we approve agenda item 2023-306, ABL number 103
876 for the approval of an alcoholic beverage license application for Righteous Bar and Grill LLC, doing business as Righteous Bar and Grill at 1155 Mount Vernon Highway Northeast, Suite 1030, Sandy Springs, Georgia 30338.
A motion by Ms. Mueller. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Motion by Ms. Mueller, seconded by Dr. Kelly, that we approve agenda item 2023-306, the alcoholic beverage license application for Righteous Bar and Grill at 1155 Mount Vernon Highway, Sandy Springs, Georgia. Any discussion? Hearing none, we'll call the question. The question's on agenda item 2023-306, the approval of an alcoholic beverage license application for Righteous.
Presented by Urban Forest Coordinator William Park.
Mr. Park, welcome.
Mayor, City Council, thank you for your time today. Today I want to talk to you guys about the potential uses of the tree fund, as this is the new tree fund expenditure policy. So just a quick reminder, according to Development Code Section 9.3.8.c, there's an establishment of the tree bank, but no true policy to outline what those uses are allowed, And so this is now an effort to outline what is allowed, what are those acceptable expenditures, so that we can responsibly manage these funds for the longevity of Sandy Springs and its urban forest. So just to go over our current uses, we use a tree fund for several reasons, namely tree plantings. We work with city projects, public works, parks, and facilities, as well as our partnership with the organization Trees Atlanta. They do plantings in our right-of-ways, and they also manage our front yard trees program. Just as a reminder, those trees are smaller in diameter, and those are coming in 15-gallon buckets. We also conduct surveys, and we do a maintenance plan of city trees. We maintain all of those public trees. We conduct invasive species control on city property, and we also have a large effort this year for community education to provide homeowners and business owners on how to maintain their canopy and trees on private property. Of course, my position, the urban forest coordinator position, is also paid for out of the tree fund. And considering feedback from council, we are considering that if the salary plus benefits of my position or whoever comes after me is greater than 20% of the starting balance of the tree fund, we can transfer that salary over to the general fund. We can consider that moving forward. So here are the staff recommendations for acceptable expenditures for the tree fund. Forest restoration, which include understory regeneration, forest succession management, and soil management. These three are outlined as alternatives to just planting large canopy trees, which I have said before are merely scaffolding of the forest, and we require all three of these objectives to properly manage a healthy forest ecosystem. We are also seeking to proactively manage pest insects and macroinvertebrates to prevent the need for quarantine or clear cutting to prevent the spread of things like borers and pine beetles. Last but not least, we are always on the lookout for conservation property acquisition. If we see a very nice parcel that we can affordably acquire, we would love to get that as well. That's all I have for you guys. Do you have any comments or concerns?
All right, you've heard the report of the Urban Forest Coordinator. What's the desire of council? Mr. Paulson.
There we go. I move approval of agenda item 2023-307, consideration of a resolution establishing the authorized uses of the City of Sandy Springs Tree Fund policy.
We have a motion by Mr. Paulson. Do I hear a second? Been moved by Mr. Paulson, seconded by Mr. DiGiulio, that we approve agenda item 2023-307, a resolution establishing the authorized uses of the City of Sandy Springs Tree Fund policy. Any discussion?
Just quickly,
Mr. Paulson.
Sound like good ideas. It sounds like these things are needed, so have at it.
Mr. DiGiulio.
William, I have a question about, you showed us lists of how we are currently using tree funds. Oh, thank you. And so these are ways we've been using the tree fund for the past, 18 years or so that we've had the tree fund. And then you showed us another, go to the next page. Recommendations. are these recommendations in addition to the ways we're currently doing it? So we're not saying, well, we're going to do away with those and just do these.
These are additions. So
These are additions.
Yes.
Okay, that's was my question.
Yes.
Because it's not clear that there are additions on there. I want to make sure that we're not stopping some of the things that we've been doing that have been successful in the past and that are important, et cetera. Thank you very much.
Mr. Baumann.
Thank you. You're doing great work. I just want to, again, say I'm concerned. I'm going to vote for this, but concerned about the slippery slope. I mean, the source of funds, unless I'm missing something, is from lost canopy.
Of course.
And paid for, by property owners, developers, property owners, individual property owners. So its intent is to, as stated in the thing, I think the intent stays the same for the preservation of canopy and the replanting of canopy. All of this is good. I just would strongly encourage a couple of things. One, that we keep really good metrics, and particularly, it's hard to see. We say this all the time. It's hard to see a saved tree. Everybody sees a cut tree. Nobody sees a saved tree, and they're only because those examples are only the people that know. My predecessor is aware of a saved tree, and it's not about one tree, but sometimes it is. It's really important that we, particularly with the new positions, really find a way to keep good records so that you can report back on the success of this. And there has been some. I've talked about the slippery slope, and I know we received one email I see from the person in the room who I think was onto a point that, again, when we get away from tree replacement, that needs to probably come from general funds, but I think those items will be brought up to us when they happen, and this is something we get to review year to year, and really, but for your presence and your skill and wisdom and presentation skills and passion, I'm not sure I feel the same way, but I feel strongly that you're going to do a great job, and that you'll come back to us over the next year and report about things we're doing both in planting and in preservation and in saving canopy, because all those things add to the quality of life, and also hopefully taking into consideration the areas of the city where canopy is lost and that money is being paid as a result, that we're also casting an extra eye on those areas. I'm not saying it's a one-for-one in the neighborhood, but that would be something that I would pay attention to. But thanks for the great work you've done, and I've heard from a lot of people about touting your work and your passion, so I look forward to seeing what you can do in the next year.
Thank you.
Any other discussion? Dr. Kelly.
Thank you for the presentation. Will this policy be located in the technical manual, or will it be in the code itself?
So this will not be in the code. This is simply just a policy that will be used more internally.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so it's not going to be codified or anything, but it's something that we can point back towards. Are we doing the right thing? These are things we've discussed with City Council in a public forum that we've discussed with a lot of different folks, so we can be transparent and open about what we're doing with the tree fund and how we are conserving our open spaces.
Okay. Quick question. So we're looking at the slide right now that has current uses. So which of these are ongoing, like have ongoing costs? Like, for example, okay, I can obviously see the actual staffing position. I see that. But are any of the bullet points on this slide, are they all kind of one-time expenditures, or?
No, so I'll go down bullet by bullet. For tree plantings, at the beginning of each fiscal year, prior to each fiscal year, there's a budgeting exercise, and we receive requests from Public Works and other departments that may need money from the tree fund to plant trees.
Right.
So that is an ongoing cost, of course.
Well, I mean, you spend it once to plant the trees.
Yes. However, with our new contracting system, what we're trying to do is incorporate a 2 to 3 year maintenance plan associated with those trees. These are not one and done projects, but rather we want to see the continued establishment and maintenance of these trees, that in 50, 25, 100 years, these trees will still be there instead of being replaced by teeny tiny little pieces of broccoli, if you will. Yeah. In terms of the survey and maintenance plans of the tree, we do a survey of public trees every few years, and so again, that's an ongoing cost. The maintenance is obviously an ongoing cost. with that new canopy breakdown given to us with the GIS division, we are looking to do maintenance by a city council basis, where we can hit every single tree once every 6 years. And so that will give us a systematic, more methodical approach to tree maintenance. Invasive species control on city property, again, that is an ongoing cost. We do not charge ahead of, we do not get invoiced ahead of time for work to be completed. Once we get work started, we do not pay those contractors until we are happy with the work. So again, that's an ongoing process. Community education, our programs right now are more of a one-time cost where we are working to start a eco-steward program. We'll pay for that up front, and we will create a volunteer workforce. And so every year when we are doing the tree fund budget, we bring these to you, and you will see year to year which are ongoing and which are more one-off.
Okay. Oh, can we go to the next slide too?
Yes, of course.
And have you do that one? Thanks. I like this breakdown.
Okay.
Yeah, thanks.
For forest restoration, these are truly ongoing projects. Why we need a lot of phases for these? A great example is if we have a lot that is covered in invasive species and we remove everything at once, there's nothing left holding the ground together, and then we run into erosion issues, sedimentation, and even dust particles in the air. And so these are projects that we visit sites and say, hey, what can we do now? What can we do next? And so this is not a project where we pay a one-time fee to a vendor and then they do it over many years, but rather we are constantly being involved and active in that process. For proactive pest insect management, this is more of an internal capacity. It's a one-time cost where I'm getting the proper certifications and licensures to be compliant with all state and federal guidelines for application of chemical control. Once we purchase those equipments and necessary chemicals, we will be able to do tree assessments and apply them as needed, never more than needed, but rather as a way to protect the economic value of our urban canopy on public property. And last but not least, conservation property acquisition. Since this has been on the tree fund agenda for a while, we have not really acquired any property, but we wanted to leave it open in case there is a parcel that comes up. Of course, any parcel that we may acquire would be brought forth to City Council and Mayor for consideration, and where that money comes from can be decided at that point too. But again, this is something that we wanted to keep on the books in case that perfect scenario arises.
So then, assuming this gets approved, this then shows up as a budgeting exercise, or?
So the next step would be to do budget amendments.
Okay.
And try to incorporate these into the existing budget. We don't want to expand this year's budget at all. But next year when we see, hey, this is our starting balance, how can we spend the money accordingly, properly? And again, maybe even break down some of the costs so that you can see more clearly, well, what is maintenance? Well, some of this maintenance is X, some of this maintenance is Y. And you'll see those in the different project lines.
So could it show up as dare I say, like a master plan or some kind of plan?
So
other than the budget amendments?
So what I am working on now is a canopy report in its long form. It's a bit wordy right now. We're going past 20 pages, but it really breaks down our canopy by council district, by zoning areas, and what we can do. And after that, what other cities have done have created a state of the forest report, or a new forest master plan that really incorporates all of our practices, everything that our municipal neighbors are doing, and sets forth a lofty goal that we can work towards over the next few decades.
All right. To what extent have we thought about, I guess it's the tree fund, but have we thought about, leveraging funds, for sustainability, like funding? When this, what is it, close to $1 million when it runs?
Yeah.
I mean, it could, right, run out,
Yes, so it certainly could. However, as Councilman Baumann said, that could lead to a slippery slope where the money is generated through the direct loss of canopy, right? Now, if council would like to discuss measures of creating a new sustainability fund or restoration fund, that would be great. But for the transparency of a tree fund that has been created by passionate individuals through the close eye of mayor and city council, I think it may be best to restrict it to true forest and tree management as this field develops.
Okay, I guess what I'm saying is once it's spent down, then what happens to, how do we cover maintenance and, all these ongoing costs that you listed? at that point?
Yes, of course. The way I always tell people about proper forest management in a perfect world is if you do your job correctly, you shouldn't have a job left to do in a few years because you set it up for success. And so every year when we do our budget exercises, we think, hey, what is possible with the amount of money thinking into the next 5, 10, 15 years of budgeting? So we can't do huge, large-scale projects with even the money we have now because the extended maintenance would cost a lot of money. Mm-hmm. And so truly what we're doing today is setting up our trees for success today so that those associated costs over time do go down. You're going to see a larger one-time cost for, perhaps touching up all the trees at the fire stations, reestablishing canopy at some of our parks or facilities. Once those are established and we have contracts that maintain those trees, those larger costs do generally dissipate. Yeah. Pruning a tree is a lot cheaper than emergency cut down during a storm. And maintaining that land is a lot cheaper than completely restoring it in the future after years of neglect and abuse. So we're looking to become more fiscally responsible at being proactive instead of reactive.
So then would it be possible to get a sense of what that long-term vision is then for?
Yes, we are working in developing
and
that.
And that's what the
Yes.
canopy plan you just mentioned?
Yes.
Well, thank you, Mr.
Mayor Paul, I just have a quick clarification. Kristen, there's a didn't we get a policy? I mean, aren't we adopting the policy that was written?
Yes, you are.
That really should have been here. It's attached through,
Yes.
It's attached to the agenda item.
Correct.
Right, so we're not just like having a little fun with some, bullet points. There was a policy that was sent to us that's attached to the agenda. We're adopting a city council established policy.
Yeah.
And Dr. Kelly, just to your good questions, we spent a lot of money of our general fund on green infrastructure, water management, and the like. This is the money that comes into the tree fund it's nice that it can be used for these projects, but it is part of best practices for quality development and also, frankly, to be very honest, disincentives for folks willy-nilly clear-cutting or taking down canopy that is, beyond the scope of what is necessary. So that creates a distance. I mean, to his point, if you didn't collect a nickel of tree fund money each year, that's not to say we wouldn't have several of these projects that we'd have to fund out of general fund. Dollars are fungible, Councilman Paulson, right? But this is a very dedicated use, and the point has been well taken by some that they are funding this, and it is not to absolve the city of its general fund obligations, but this is a dedicated use. But I just wanted to be clear that we're not just adopting bullet points. We are adopting a policy that will be referenced later, and it gives the staff an opportunity without coming to us every week for a work plan.
To clarify the position that we're in, the motion by Mr. Paulson, seconded by Mr. DiGiulio, is to approve a resolution, and a resolution sets policy. So we are setting policy. All right. Any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll call the question. The question's on agenda item 2023-307, a resolution establishing the authorized uses of the City of Sandy Springs Tree Fund policy. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. The item is approved. Moving to new business, the clerk will please read the next item.
Agenda item number 2023-308. This is consideration of a resolution to award a contract to OpenGov for community development permitting software. This is presented by Director of Community Development, Ginger Sotile.
Ms. Sotile.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council. On December 7th, 2022, the Community Development Department released a request for proposal to replace the existing permitting software company presently servicing the Sandy Springs Community Development Department. In total, we received 11 responses, and of those, the selection team chose 4 finalists as shown on the bolded next slide. Sorry? There we go. They are Aboset, also known as Acela, Online Solutions, OpenGov, and Sages Network. After an intense review of the potential candidates, the committee chose OpenGov as our preferred vendor. Some of the considerations had to do with the ease of in-the-field inspection functionality, with virtually instant results for the contractor homeowner, inspection photos and reports uploaded directly to the permit remotely with or without internet connectivity. In areas that have spotty connectivity, the documents will be uploaded automatically when the iPad comes into internet range. Another major factor in our decision-making process is the ease with which the permitting platforms can be developed. No coding ability is required. A drag-and-drop interface allows someone with little computer savvy to make changes to the system. Another cost-saving factor considered is the ability of the new software to eliminate the need for a separate software to handle the work of planned Sandy Springs. The questions as shown on the screenshot here are part of the new OpenGov software solution. This will provide a significant savings to the city. In addition to the aforementioned cost savings, this next slide shows a comparison of our existing software vendor as it compares to our preferred vendor selection. A key factor in this comparison is that starting this year, we were supposed to finance a move to the cloud, which is about an additional $100,000 per year extra to run our existing software. With our new selection, the cloud hosting cost is built into the overall subscription cost with the new company. We believe that the cost savings, ease of use, programmability, reliability, and customer service are compelling reasons to make this change, and we look for your support. I would be happy to answer any questions you might have.
You've heard the report of the Director of Community Development. What's the desire of council?
Mayor Paul.
Mr. Paulson.
I move approval of agenda item 2023-308, a resolution to award a contract to OpenGov for community development permitting software.
A motion by Mr. Paulson. Is there a second?
Second.
Been moved by Mr. Paulson, seconded by Dr. Kelly, that we approve agenda item 2023-308, a resolution to award a contract to OpenGov for community development permitting software. Any discussion?
Mayor Paul.
Mr. Paulson.
So every couple of years, we put more money into these systems. Obviously, you've reviewed this. Does this system do everything our current system does, as well as the additional things you just talked about? We're covered with everything we've already been doing, because it's working pretty well. Now, I know it's taken a while. It's working pretty well. I don't want us to go backwards here in any respect.
It has all the current functionality that we have today.
Okay. And the transition from the old to the new, you already worked that out, so we don't have like 2 months where no one can file or get any information. You got a good transition plan here?
Yes.
Okay. Because everybody suffered through this when we first had COVID. Everybody's pulling their hair out because they couldn't get things done. I don't want to repeat that process.
So we have about 8 months to do the implementation. And I believe the way it should work is that for the first couple of months, they'll be developing the system, and then over the next few months, they will be transferring the data over, and then we will test it and try it out while our current system is running in the background. And then, in theory, you make that smooth transition.
Fair enough.
Okay.
Good luck.
Any others? All right, hearing none, we'll call the question. The question's on agenda item 2023-308, a resolution awarding the contract to OpenGov for community development permitting software. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. The item is approved. The clerk will please read the next item.
Agenda item number 2023-309, consideration of a contract award to Kimley Horn Associates, Inc. for design services as it relates to the Long Island Drive at Mount Vernon Highway intersection improvement project, and to authorize the city manager to execute the contract, presented by Public Works Director Marty Martin.
Mr. Martin.
Mayor and Council, good evening. Tonight I bring before you a recommendation to award a contract to Kimley Horn and Associates for the Long Island Drive at Mount Vernon Highway intersection improvement project, project number T2403. The objective of the project is to improve the efficiency, safety, and overall functionality of the intersection located at Long Island Drive and Mount Vernon Highway. The overall plan for the project includes the realignment of the driveway to Arlington Memorial Park with Long Island Drive into a single signal-controlled intersection, optimizing traffic flow as well as improving sight distance along Long Island Drive. The project further aims to address specific challenges such as notable queuing and delay issues associated with left turn conflicts observed at the Long Island Drive approach. Kimley Horn had previously completed a traffic analysis for the city and a conceptual design for the intersection in 2021. On August 22, 2023, the city requested a quote from Kimley Horn for the full design of the project utilizing our on-call signal design contract. A proposal by Kimley Horn was received in the amount of $151,414 for that work on September 20th, 2023. This quote is in line with the staff estimate of some $150,000 for the same services. With that, staff recommends award to Kimley Horn for the design of the project.
All right, you've heard the report of the Public Works Director. What's the desire of council?
Mayor Paul,
Ms. Mueller.
I move that we approve Agenda Item 2023-309 for the contract award to Kimley Horn and Associates, Inc. for design services as it relates to the Long Island Drive and Mount Vernon Highway intersection improvement project, and to authorize the city manager to execute the contract.
Motion by Ms. Mueller. Is there a second?
Second.
Been moved by Ms. Mueller, seconded by Mr. Baumann, that we approve Agenda Item 2023-309, a contract award to Kimley Horn and Associates for design services related to the Long Island Drive at Mount Vernon Highway intersection improvement project. Any discussion?
Mayor Paul.
Ms. Mueller.
So, Marty, question. This is for the detailed design. Do you have any idea of the time frame when this would be completed, and then like ballpark when the project could be done?
So overall, a design like this, with some preliminary work already being performed, should take about 1 year to the point where we can finalize details on required right-of-way, and as well, Councilwoman, in this particular case, we'll need to work in partnership with the Arlington Park as we settle up on property agreements. So that, too, will have a time component. I suspect will take us a year to get to resolution with them before we can move forward with construction on the project.
It's too early to say what construction would be. I mean, we're
Yes,
just
ma'am.
looking for that. Okay.
And I don't know the utility impacts that might be within this project as well. We do have aerial utilities in the area as well.
All right. And then I think that I've also had emails from people regarding when people were going and making like the right turn, pedestrians, because they go really fast, and pedestrians, I mean, are we going to be able to do anything to help slow that down or make that, I don't know, better for pedestrians?
Well, when we go to this signal-controlled intersection, we'll have a stop-go phase there where we now have a yield, or some treat it as a yield condition there. So
Yeah.
this should improve pedestrian safety overall there. So,
Okay. Thank you.
yes, ma'am.
Any others? So, Marty, I guess adding that extra lane at T-Splosh didn't solve all our problems at that intersection.
It was a good start, Mayor, so we'll put it that way. We'll
All
see
right.
if we can't make it a little better out there.
Okay. Any other discussion? Hearing none, we'll call the question. The question's on Agenda Item 2023-309, a contract award to Kimley Horn Associates for design services as it relates to the Long Island Drive at Mount Vernon Highway intersection improvement project. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. The item is approved. The clerk will please read the next item.
Agenda item number 2023-310, consideration of a resolution authorizing a contract award to Vertical Earth, Inc. to construct the 7236 Thornhill Lane Drainage Improvement Project, presented by Public Works Director Marty Martin.
Mr. Martin.
Mayor and Council, tonight I recommend to you a contract award to Vertical Earth Incorporated for the construction of a stormwater drainage improvement project as it relates to 7236 Thornhill Lane. In 2021, the City of Sandy Springs engaged an engineering firm to develop plans for the construction of a stormwater management pond at this address. The project increases storage capacity by installing retaining walls to create additional stormwater storage capacity and improve runoff rates. The project scope consists of installing approximately 300 linear feet of retaining wall with flume, replacing some existing 30-inch reinforced concrete pipe with double elliptical 48 by 30 reinforced concrete pipe, install a minor drainage structure and conduit pipe, regrade, reconstruct the concrete driveway, install head walls, installed some 280 linear feet of privacy fence around the structure, and clear and remove underbrush and trees and associated erosion and control. To advance the project, the city issued a request for quotes on September 14, 2023, seeking bids from qualified contractors. Those bids were received on September 29, 2023, with the bid results as follows. Vertical Earth Incorporated, $799,029.88, and Metals and Materials Engineers, LLC, at $1,099,902.54. Upon review of the bids, staff recommends that the contract award be made to the responsible and responsive bid of Vertical Earth in the amount of $799,029.88.
You've heard the report of the Public Works Director. What's the desire of council?
Mayor Paul,
Dr. Kelly.
I move approval of agenda item 2023-310, a contract award to Vertical Earth to construct the 7236 Thornhill Lane Drainage Improvement Project.
A motion by Dr. Kelly. Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved by Dr. Kelly, seconded by Ms. Mueller, that we approve agenda item 2023-310, a resolution authorizing contract award to Vertical Earth to construct the 7236 Thornhill Lane Drainage Improvement Project. Is there any discussion? Dr. Kelly.
And this is maybe for you, Ms. Carlisle. Do we have an actual account number for our stormwater capital maintenance and improvement account? And that's something you could, okay.
There's a stormwater fund, so we have account set up specifically for the fund.
Okay, so that's, okay. All right, thank you.
Any other discussion?
Mayor Paul.
Mr. Paulson.
So this solves the problem that the fellow was in here earlier talking about, right?
Yes, sir. And
Good. Let's get it done.
We've worked in conjunction with the family to develop a solution here.
Mr. DiGiulio.
Marty, you might have mentioned this in a previous briefing, but you tell me, why is this particular project the responsibility of the city? If I understand this correctly, it only addresses this one home. Is that correct, or am I misunderstanding this?
Wait a minute, Marty.
Go ahead.
Yeah, let Mr. Lee respond.
Stormwater discussions are intricate anyway, because many people believe that it is a system that the city is supposed to be involved in, and it is impossible most of the time for stormwater to affect only one property owner, and that is the case with this project before you tonight. In addition to what the director has told you tonight, this was put out for bid and no bids were received. The contract proposal before you tonight is something solicited by the Public Works Department, where we only got 2 bids, and the one that you've been asked to approve is a negotiated costing of the project. And to answer your question, Councilman, the city's liability in this is related to some work that the city did some 15 years ago, 14 years ago, off this property that has tended to exacerbate the flow of water by this property. And this project, as designed since 2021, is intended to correct that problem.
So do I understand it properly that we did some work maybe on another piece of property or something like that, and it wound up channeling the water this property, where this property did not have that problem before, and we've created this problem and now we're fixing it?
It's not 100%. The city's work in years past off this property, according to Public Works, has exacerbated the flow of water. And that's the general rule, is that if you affect the water flow, you must do something about the water flow as it passes by. Included in this project is a stormwater piping below this property also. The next door neighbor's driveway has a new culvert in it that will channel this water after it's been detained via this contract on downstream.
Okay, thank you.
Any other discussion? Hearing none, we will call the question. The question's on agenda item 2023, a resolution authorizing contract award to Vertical Earth, Inc. to construct the 7236 Thornhill Lane Drainage Improvement Project. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. The item is approved. The clerk will please read the next item. Mr. Cass, before we do, I want to thank you for your patience. I know it hasn't been easy on you and your family. This water has been a problem for a while, and we've looked for a lot of different ways to solve it. Hopefully, this will take care of it. But thank you for being here tonight. All right, clerk.
Excuse me, this is agenda item number 2023-311. Consideration of an ordinance to amend the City of Sandy Springs FY 2024 budget for the Public Safety and Community Violence Reduction Grant Program and for the law enforcement staffing and equipment and technology projects. This is presented by Sandy Springs Police Department Major Dan Nabel.
Major Nabel.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Just a brief update here. As a reminder, in June of 23, Governor's Office of Planning and Budget awarded the city $750,000 and some change for some equipment and technology required for the development of a violent crime reduction team. And we were also awarded $869,000 for staffing, which would add some criminal intelligence unit analysts and CSI techs, and we accepted that July of 23. We're requesting a budget amendment for fiscal year 24 to initiate the implementation of this because the city must allocate the funds to get this started, and then the funds will be subsequently reimbursed by the Governor's Office of Planning and Budget. And without these funds, we won't be able to continue to move forward with the project.
All right, you've heard the report of the major. What's the desire of council? Mr. DiGiulio.
I move approval of item 2022-311, the ordinance to amend the City of Sandy Springs fiscal year 24 budget for the Public Safety and Community Violence Reduction Grant Program for the law enforcement staffing and equipment and technology projects.
You have a motion by Mr. DiGiulio. Is there a second? Been moved by Mr. DiGiulio, seconded by Mr. Paulson, that we approve agenda item 2023-311, an ordinance amending the City of Sandy Springs FY24 budget for the Public Safety and Community Violence Reduction Grant Program. Any discussion? Hearing none, we'll call the question. The question is on agenda item 2023-311, the amendment to the City of Sandy Springs 2024 budget for Public Safety and Community Violence Reduction Grant Programs. All in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. The item is approved. Clerk will please read the next item.
Agenda item number 2023-312. This is consideration of a resolution to approve a memorandum of understanding by and between the City of Sandy Springs, the Sandy Springs Police Department, and Fulton County Schools for the collaborative initiative to provide emergency response operations between the parties. This is presented by Sandy Springs Police Department Major Michael Lindstrom.
Major Lindstrom.
Good evening. This memorandum is essentially what we've been doing since we started the police department. Our relationship with the Fulton County Schools has been one of excellent communication, so we're just asking to formalize what we've already been doing. First person on scene essentially takes control of the scene until more parties have arrived and established the command. It goes on to talk about additional training and things like we did at Riverwood High School just a few weeks back, things like that. So we're just asking to formalize what we've already been doing since we started this police department.
Well, I think it's very important that we have a formal outline. So in an emergency, everybody needs to know who's responsible for what. And this does a great job of coordinating this, something that we started having serious conversations with last summer. And I want to thank the police department for their perseverance in this, and also the Fulton County Schools, because, the kinds of emergencies that we unfortunately have seen all too often in this country can occur in any community at any time whenever an unbalanced person decides to take up a weapon and harm innocent people. This will make sure that everybody knows who their roles and responsibilities are, and hopefully it never happens here, but if it does, then this will expedite responses, plus some of the other things that we'll be doing. And we haven't talked about school cameras yet, have we?
That's next.
That's
yes,
next.
sir.
Okay. All right. So you've heard the report of the major. What's the desire of council? Mr. Paulson.
Agenda item 2023-312, resolution to approve a memorandum of understanding by and between City of Sandy Springs Police Department, and Fulton County Schools for the collaborative collaborative initiative to provide emergency response operations between the parties.
The motion by Mr. Paulson, is there a second?
Second.
Been moved by Mr. Paulson, seconded by Mr. Bauman.
I would second it.
DeJulio?
Yeah.
Just distant voices out there.
Distant voices.
All right.
My voice is so soft, you can't hear.
Motion by Mr. Paulson, seconded by Mr. DeJulio, that we approve agenda item 2023-312, a resolution approving memorandum of understanding with the City of Sandy Springs Police Department, Fulton County Schools for collaborative initiative to provide emergency response operations. Any discussion? Hearing none, we'll call the question. The question's on agenda item 2023-312, the resolution approving a memorandum of understanding between Sandy Springs and the Fulton County Schools. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. The item is approved. The clerk will now read the next item.
Agenda item number 2023-313. This is consideration of a resolution approving a memorandum of understanding by and between the City of Sandy Springs Police Department, and Fulton County Schools for the sharing of school speed zone detection devices located in Fulton County school zones. Also presented by Major Michael Lindstrom.
Major.
Mr. Mayor, you brought it up. I'll add to it. If you recall, a couple of years ago, we presented this program. You may recall that the name of the company that we mentioned called Red Speed, that contracts with police departments and cities for this particular program with the speed zone cameras. At that time, the school wouldn't approve the speed detection devices, which is needed for those things. What we determined is that the law has to have that approval from the schools. This memorandum covers that approval now with that understanding with the school, Fulton County Schools, where we have an agreement with them, and then we can move forward with our project.
Major, can you kind of tell us how the cameras operate so that everybody knows?
They're LPR license plate readers. They detect the speed. What we would do is set it up. What the law allows is 1 hour before school starts, 1 hour after, and only during those times. And then we move forward with it's more of a civil type citation. But the main premise of the whole program is to improve the safety in those particular areas of the schools.
It also, in addition to helping us control speed through school zones, if we have a known miscreant headed and we're not sure where he is and he's headed towards school, this will give us a few maybe seconds or minutes of advance notice that help us respond more quickly, correct?
That's correct. I believe the council is very familiar with our LPRs and the information and the things that we've been able to do with our police department with that technology. That just is going to improve it and specifically put some of those cameras within the schools.
So in crisis situations, seconds matter.
Absolutely, sir.
All right, thank you. Any other discussion?
Mayor Paul.
Mr. Paulson.
So will these be, for example, North Springs High School? They'll be on the school grounds, or they'll be out on Spalding and out on Roswell Road?
They would be adjacent to the areas that we've determined through some of the studies that they'll come out and do prior to actually implementing the program. And in the example of North Springs, it would be Roswell Road. If you utilized Dunwoody Springs Elementary School, you would put them out there on Roberts Drive.
Thanks.
Yes, sir.
I've had a point of order which brought the chairman, the mayor, up short. He has neglected to get a motion. We're already discussing. So I will ask at this time, is there a motion? You've heard the report of the major. What's the desire of council?
Mayor Paul.
Mr. Paulson.
I move approval of agenda item 2023-313. That's the one we've been discussing.
Illegally, improperly.
Improperly, for a resolution approving a memorandum of understanding by and between the City of Sandy Springs Police Department, and Fulton Schools for the sharing of school zone speed detection devices located in Fulton County school zones.
Is there a motion by Mr. Paulson? Is there a second?
Second.
Been moved by Mr. Paulson, seconded by Mr. DeJulio, that we approve agenda item 2023-313, memorandum of understanding between Sandy Springs Police, and Fulton County Schools for school zone speed detection devices. Any further discussion? Mr. Yep. Okay, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Lee. To clarify, Mr. Mayor, these areas that we would be utilizing these cameras and whatnot would be specifically identified by signage. So there's specific signs on each part of the particular school zones. So each area would have very clear knowledge of where these areas are identified that you're going to be passing through.
Mike, how far,
then Mr. Baumann.
okay. Mike, how far from the schools do they actually, I mean, for example, like take High Point School, which is off High Point Road. Would the cameras be on High Point Road, or would they be on the little roads that go up to the school? How's that work?
It would be similar to the signage that's already out there. If you're thinking of, as you're approaching the school zones and you see those signs that are notifying you that you're entering a school zone, they'd be about the same areas. So you're not going to go off into the different particular side streets and so forth, but your main areas of that school zone.
Mr. Baumann?
Yeah, just so to distinguish, and Dan, your point, we have LPRs, we have cameras, we have, your speed limits all over the place. The difference with these and why they need to be identified is that we can issue civil citations or warnings or whatever. I mean, we don't take actions off of intersection cameras, but these cameras, I think the point here is that we can take action off of the information during these limited time periods. Is that the distinction?
That's correct.
Right, thanks.
I have two questions.
All right, Ms. Mueller.
Two questions. First one is, were there existing signs that, would light up and, say that the school zone and reduced, will those still remain? And then will there just be additional signage, the camera enforcement?
That's correct. Yeah, there'll be additional signage. And then prior to them implementing the program, there's plenty of notification, if you will. And then they actually do a time period of where they're issuing warnings first.
Okay. And then, is this for all Fulton schools or just certain schools? And then can you speak to the rollout?
Right now, we've identified 3 particular schools in the city of Sandy Springs that we've noticed more traffic infractions, accidents, speeding, and things like that. So we wanted to try them there. When we can move on to different private schools, for instance, we'll have conversations with those particular leaders as we would have to get approval from those schools per the law.
And the first one will be up when? Do we have a target of when it's going to actually be there?
It's hard to say.
Okay.
There's a lot of work to be done as far as that notification and putting up and basically what we're going to do per the plan that we had in place before is a lot of notification. We don't want to, I kind of compare it to the alarm ordinance. We want to make sure that everyone knows when they're traveling through those school zones, something that they should already know, that they should be traveling safely through those school zones. But by the time that this program goes into place, there really shouldn't be anyone that doesn't know what's going on.
I have a question.
Dr. Kelly.
Can you tell us about how ticketing and money and, fines, I guess, would work for speeding?
Well, it's a process, and initially we'll start with warnings. Basically, the camera will capture a license plate, and then basically the registered owner of the vehicle will get the ticket. And it'll be up to them to prove if they weren't driving, so if it was someone else driving. And then the first ticket, unless anything's gone up, would be $75, and then the next ticket would be $100. The revenue generated from that goes back into the public safety, where we can only utilize it for other things regarding public safety. So our plan would be to add more cameras. LPR-related cameras for the additional safety of our city.
Do you know what percentage of a given ticket the city of Sandy Springs will receive?
I don't, right now, I don't have that, because we're not at that point in our,
100%? Okay, it's not like a deal with okay. Will this, at the sites that you all have chosen, will this replace sort of whatever we're doing in terms of like traditional patrolling or traditional speed interventions?
no, if you can envision, if one of us is driving through a particular area and we get captured by this camera, and it captured our license plate, that's civil related, because we're not going to be able to prove who is driving to be able to put points on your license, if you will. If we're utilizing a laser device to do speed detection, and we point it at the front of your vehicle and stop you personally for speeding, I don't mean to point at you, but I'm just using that as an example, but if we're pointing at you and we pull you over, we know it's you that's driving, and then you can be personally responsible for that ticket and the subsequent fines and so forth. So it's civil versus criminal.
Okay. Do we have any, I guess, specific like metrics or goals we're trying to reach in terms of speed? We just don't want any.
We really just want less
eradicated
accidents in those areas. You know, the whole goal of the program is to make sure that, or try to help in the safety of those school zones. That's it. Simply put, it's the safety of those particular areas. So, you know, like we could say one accident in those areas is one too many. But if we can get people to slow down in these particular school zones, that's our goal. Everything else is an addition.
All right, thank you.
Any other discussion? And we will be accused of using them for revenue generation. That always comes along, which is not the case. It is about, just as the major pointed out, about getting people to slow down, particularly with school zones. Excuse me, a little congestion there. Hearing no further discussion, we'll call the question. The question's on agenda item 2023-313, a resolution approving a memorandum of understanding between the City of Sandy Springs Police Department, and Fulton County Schools for the sharing of speed zone detection devices located in Fulton County school zones. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. The item is approved. The clerk will please read the next item. Thank you.
Agenda item number 2023-314. This is consideration to approve participation in federal IIJA state and local cybersecurity grant program and to enter into a memorandum of understanding with the Georgia Emergency Management and Homeland Security Agency to accomplish this purpose. This is presented by IT Director Jonathan Crow.
Mr. Crow.
Good evening. Staff is recommending entering an MOU with GEMA and Homeland Security to participate in a state and local cybersecurity grant program that was created part of the Information Infrastructure and Jobs Act. In September 22, they announced this grant program to address cybersecurity risk shortly after Georgia formed a planning committee to develop a plan for the state. In March of 23, Sandy Springs submitted a worksheet to the Georgia Technology Authority outlining the city's request to conduct an IT risk assessment. That application is still in progress. This grant required a 10% local cost share. We have recommended, or we have requested the maximum funding amount of $69,650 from GEMA and Homeland, with a max amount funded by the city of $7,738 funded by the city.
All right, you've heard the report of the Information Technology Director. What's the desire of council?
Mayor Paul,
Ms. Mueller.
I move that we approve agenda item 2023-314 for the approval to participate in the federal IIJA state and local cybersecurity grant program and to enter into a memorandum of understanding with the Georgia Emergency Management and Homeland Security Agency to accomplish this purpose.
We have a motion by Ms. Mueller. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion by Ms. Mueller, seconded by Dr. Kelly, that we approve agenda item 2023-314, approving the participation in the federal IIJA state and local cybersecurity grant program and entering into a memorandum of understanding with the Georgia Emergency Management and Homeland Security Agency to accomplish this purpose. Any discussion? Ms. Mueller.
Jonathan, will this include intrusion testing?
We
What
have
kind of test-
penetration testing as
Okay.
part of a more consistent ongoing testing.
Okay.
This is a holistic IT risk assessment we try to do every 3 to 5 years.
Okay, thank you.
Any other discussion? Hearing none, we'll call the question. Questions on agenda item 2023-314, approving participation in the federal IIJA state and local cybersecurity grant program. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. The item is approved. The clerk will please read the next item.
Agenda item number 2023-315. This is consideration of a resolution to approve an agreement between the City of Sandy Springs, Art Sandy Springs, and selected artists as it relates to the Veterans Park project, presented by Director of Facilities, Capital Construction, and Building Operations, Dave Wells.
Mr. Wells.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Before you tonight is a resolution to award the final artist selection for the Veterans Art Park. In 2017, the city started acquiring property known as the Triangle parcel at 6205 Roswell Road to construct the city's Veterans Park project. Shortly after, the city and Art Sandy Springs started the process to procure an artist sculpture to complement and complete the aesthetics of the Veterans Art project. I would like to introduce Sherry Morris with Art Sandy Springs. She's going to walk you through the selection process and give you the final recommendations for the Veterans Art artist.
All right, Ms. Morris.
Good evening. I'm Sherry Morris with Art Sandy Springs. We have a good-sized committee that has been working on this for several years, and both Gar Muse and George Bushy, who are very involved and have provided great leadership, are traveling on business tonight. So 3 of us are here, myself, Molly Welch, and Dina Chumney. At the outset of this project, the city and we put together a committee of veterans and key city staff and folks from Art Sandy Springs to team and make sure that everybody got great input into this. The site, as you know, is a high point. It's surrounded on every side by busy roads coming at all kinds of angles and all kinds of slopes. It's a very heavy vehicular traffic pattern. And so we knew that we had an opportunity to do a monumental, iconic piece at what at one point was called Gateway Park. It's such an entry to the City Springs district. And to also do something contemporary that ties to the look of City Springs and the forward-looking DNA of the city of Sandy Springs. But we also needed to make sure there was what Councilman Paulson would call the touchable moment. And we appreciate the passion and clear-headed leadership that Councilman DiGiulio, Councilman Paulson have provided from day one through this project. It's been a joy to work on it. So we needed the sculpture that we put in place to also evoke the gratitude to our veterans and to honor them and to be reflective and contemplative. That's a big challenge on this piece of land. We published a national request for qualifications and got over 100 entries. And Art Sandy Springs went through those and culled it down to 18 that we felt they were great artists, but we felt could really do this commission. And then the entire committee met and went through the 18 and brought it down to 4. 4 artists were asked to do a design and were given a stipend, and they had their designs back to us on September 30th. The larger group met on October 4th and selected what you will see tonight. I started to say selected the winner, but it is winners because we really ended up combining 2 artists, one of whom did a large monumental contemporary piece and one of whom did the more traditional, more evocative bronze that we were looking for. Do I click the slides or do you, Caroline? Thank you. The monumental piece is a 33-foot eternal flame, internally lit by changing LED panels. It is by Curtis Pittman of Portland, Oregon. And the intimate piece, next slide, is a cast bronze of 2 life-size figures, a soldier and a young girl by Kevin Chambers, who is of Atlanta and who joined us and has had a lovely time tonight at probably his first city council meeting in his life. He's like, what happened?
My apologies.
No, I'll never do that again. I will go through Mr. Pittman's first. And we actually should probably back up and look at this. Curtis wrote, the name of this piece is Be the Light. And he wrote, freedom is the light for which many have died in darkness. And our promise from the U.S. military is the light of freedom. Fire is the symbol of freedom, as you see in the torch of the Statue of Liberty. It is also a symbol of remembrance, as you see with the eternal flame at Arlington National Cemetery. The sculpture is an eternal flame. As I said, it's a little over 33 feet tall. It's constructed of coated steel pipe and large panels. The panels deploy 3 zones of LED lights that will be programmed with color and sequence for a kinetic expression at night. It will be stunning from the road network, and it will be gorgeous from inside the Performing Arts Center. It will be a joy to look across the street and see that. The 7 spires at the top represent the collaborative efforts of the 7 branches of military service, also being honored in the Memorial Garden in the park. Careful attention was paid to the scale of the art and how it will be viewed from every angle. People are coming up hills at it, they're coming down hills at it, and care is taken to provide transparency at the eye level, so you do see in and see through into the park. Views of the fountain, the Memorial Garden, and existing flagpoles are purposefully intended to be framed through the art, enhancing its overall connection to the site elements. Now, if we can look at the bronzes. Kevin Chambers named this piece 3 Generations, which is really lovely. There are, and he says that he drew on his time visiting veterans memorials in D.C. and other cities, and how being witness to other veterans reflecting and paying their respects deeply moved him and altered his perception and experience. There are 2 life-size figures, cast bronze, one an adult, the other a child. The adult figure is in uniform and holds the folded memorial flag. The artist's grandfather served as the model for the adult figure and posed in his original Air Force uniform, which is quite an accomplishment. I can't get in my clothes from when I was a 19-year-old gymnast. The folded flag is, as we all know, the visual and symbolic tie that honors the memory of a deceased veteran. The figurative sculptures are positioned so they're looking up toward the flame and paying their respects. The figures give context and meaning as they represent the viewer. And you'll see in a video in a moment Kevin working on the clay modeling. I have to tell you, the graceful body lines of these figures and the finely honed faces are absolutely beautiful. It will absolutely truly be a work of art, and it will evoke strong emotion. Let's look. Each of the artists provided a video. Let's look at those short videos. I think there's sound with this.
This is my second Veterans Memorial, so I learned on the first one how it's very important for me to put everything I can into this, and even at this scale, it's a very thought out, rendered, finished piece. I wanted to give everything I could to it. I decided to create a fully finished 1/3 scale piece of the final piece. My model is actually wearing his original uniform from when he was 19 years old. So stars up, yep. So this is about as authentic as you get for a proposal for a Veterans Memorial. The real veteran art model wearing his original uniform. the whole idea is that he sort of stops in his tracks, is in awe in his face and the gaze at the piece, and then the child is in motion right behind him.
And then we will look at a more technical from Curtis Pittman. He's not in this video. He's showing us how the flames work at night. And you see Kevin's pieces in scale there as they approach from the Memorial Garden up to the Eternal Flame. So this really encompasses the whole park, the way this came together. We dreamed about that years ago, and we couldn't quite sync getting the artists in place before the park was designed, but it just happened. We were blessed. Okay. The budget was established some years back by council vote, I believe. Curtis Pittman's large piece is $385,000, and Kevin Chambers is $85,000. And looking at the schedule, and we will have the contract signed certainly before January if we have a successful vote tonight. Working drawings and stamped engineer. There will be stamped structural engineering drawings of these. February to March. March to May materials ordered and delivered, June to August fabrication, and then coating and lighting and fit out and shipping and delivery, and this will be installed in time for Memorial Day, 12 months and 1 week from now. What did I say? Oh, sorry. It's pretty late. So we ask, there's a resolution in your packet. We ask for approval of the resolution.
All right, you've heard the report. What's the desire of council?
Mayor Paul,
Mr. Paulson.
with delight, I recommend approval of agenda item 2023-315, consideration of a resolution to approve an agreement between the City of Sandy Springs, Art Sandy Springs, and selected artists as it relates to the Veterans Park project.
I have a motion by Mr. Paulson. Is there a second? Moved by Mr. Paulson, seconded by Mr. DiGiulio. Any discussion? Well, first of all, Mr. Paulson gets to go first, so go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Sherry, and thank your committee. I'm glad we have people like you and your folks in your committee who would do this, because if Tibby and I had to do this, I don't know what the thing would have wound up looking like, okay? But I was quite pleased when we went into this and started reviewing these. My panic was these artists are going to show up and we're all going to go, what in the world were these people thinking? And thank God that didn't happen. As we went through and looked at these, and there were a couple others as well, total of 4, it seemed obvious to me that this combination gave us, as you described, both the size and the stature, so to speak, of the Eternal Flame type, as well as the touchable moment with the veteran and his daughter walking towards it. So I couldn't be more pleased with it. I'm looking forward to this, and I appreciate the presentation. Fantastic.
Thank you.
Mr. DiGiulio.
Sherry, when I first saw these things here, the Eternal Flame was the one I eliminated immediately.
I remember that.
I said, that's absolutely not. And of course, I came to the realization that that is exactly what we want. Well, now, I was also very opposed at the cost of this. From the very beginning, I said, I'm never going to vote for that. But just to make everybody feel better about this, we have been able to get commitments for not quite all of it, but almost all of the money from private sources in Sandy Springs who are going to support this for us. Matter of fact, on Friday, we'll actually announce who, and when we do the dedication, we'll announce the rest of the fundraising that's going to be, along with the opportunities for dedication of different financial things in different parts of the Veterans Park. But looking at this and putting these two together, I just can't imagine. I mean, I vision it as a grandfather taking his child up there and with that folded flag. And it brings real emotion. And as you all know, I have been in a lot of that emotion over the years, and have known a lot of people who've had folded flags. And I think it's, especially in this crazy world we live in today, I think it's very important that we step up and we show the world in Sandy Springs that we are in support of our people, and in support of our veterans, and in support of our country. And I thank you. I thank our artists. I thank Art Sandy Springs. I look forward to our dedication on Friday, and I look forward to our dedication a year from Friday when we go ahead and dedicate the actual sculptures. Thank you.
Well, I want to thank everybody who was involved. I want to thank the artists for having the forced collaboration, but willing to do it. But also know that, veterans of all types and so on. We've started gathering all the military records of family members, but we've even had a local person lose their life this week. Not in an American uniform, but an Israeli uniform. Young 21-year-old girl who is grown up in this area, relatives who live here in Sandy Springs, and there's still people who are making the ultimate sacrifice for freedom around the world, and not all of them are Americans. But this one was an American who was fighting in Israel. But I want to thank Tibby and John for their work. I sat in on the meetings where we finally came to a resolution, and I reminded everybody that my background's advertising, and great advertising makes your palms sweat. I've always said that. If you're on the edge, you're going to be nervous. And there was some nervousness in the room, as Tibby indicated. But as they talked, and I said, don't rely on your first impression. Think about this. Let it soak in. And they did. And I think they came up with a magnificent solution. And as I say, I'm so appreciative that the two artists have agreed to work together to make this an iconic piece. My biggest fear, and we may need some cameras on Roswell Road, is that people coming up Roswell Road is just simply going to stop in the middle of the road, watch, and look. Because I think it's going to be that iconic. I think it's going to be that show-stopping. And I'm going to probably put a sign out there and say, don't stop, pull off and watch. But anyway, it's great, and I appreciate the work that everybody has done to make this happen, and I can't wait for Friday when we dedicate the park, but even more importantly, when we complete it a year from now. So thank you all. Anybody else?
Mayor Paul.
Mr. Paulson.
If I may, there were several other veterans on the committee besides Tibby and I. Chief DeSimone was part of it. Kat was, and Dave Wells was Dave still here? Dave Wells was part of it as well.
Right here.
Oh, there he is. I'm looking over here, Dave. And so everybody chimed in. All of us are a little bit out of our element here. So the guidance that you and your committee provided us in trying to understand what we were looking at, and then the emotion that we felt, I think we have a good solution that came together. So fantastic.
So we are actually asking for a vote to approve the resolution so we can contract with the artists and get going.
Well, as soon as you get through talking, we'll do it.
Well,
all right. No further discussion. We'll call the question. The question's on agenda item 2023-315, a resolution approving an agreement between the City of Sandy Springs, Art Sandy Springs, and selected artists as it relates to the Veterans Park project. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. The item is approved. Go forth and create.
thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
All right, that's our last official item of business tonight. Going to reports, I've got a few things, and we've talked about it a little bit. One is Veterans Day is Friday this year. Normally it's on the 11th, but because the 11th following on a Saturday, we're doing it Friday. We'll have the normal Veterans Day celebration in the theater, the large theater, and then once we finish that, we will all go across the street to do some flag raising and dedicate the park, cut a ribbon. I hope all the veterans in Sandy Springs come, but I hope it's not just the veterans. I hope it's their families. I hope that there's the people who know and appreciate our veterans will come out and be a part of that park dedication. It's turned out magnificently. We got to fill the fountains last week with a little bit of help from the fire department. They gave us the little hoses, not the big ones, so that we didn't get blown across Roswell Road. Yeah, they gave us the little hoses, but we were able to do that, and I appreciate that. Well, they gave you the little hose. They gave you the little hose. We've got several performances coming up in the theater this week. We've got Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday performances. Still a few good tickets left, but they've gone fairly quickly. So that's George Thorogood for all the rockers. We've got Stomp for the dancers. And for you country music fans, we've got Hunter Hayes coming on Sunday afternoon at 2 o'clock. And some of you may have noticed that there's a little bit of construction going on the city green. With little walls put up, and the ice rink is going in. And we'll have a test of it on the 15th. Well, we've got piping under there that will work regardless. But it would be nicer that I don't want to be out there in my shorts and T-shirts ice skating. Not that I'm going to be doing it. I'll break stuff if I do it. But anyway, that's if you want to come out and be part of the free first night of skating in Sandy Springs on the green, you can go online and register. There'll be a 7 and an 8:30 session. So that'll include skate rentals. So go online and do that. There's a place to do that on the website. That's all I've got. Anybody else? Mr. DiGiulio.
Yeah, I had an opportunity on Sunday. The High Point Civic Association, this is the second year that they're doing this. It's called the Daffodil Project. And on Sunday, the High Point Civic Association planted 500 daffodils, 250 at Windsor Park Meadows and 250 at Ridgeview Middle School, plus they gave out probably another 500 daffodils. And so I thought, well, that's really nice because they're very pretty. But then I realized when I found out the meaning of these, the meaning of this is the Daffodil Project is actually an international project meant to commemorate the 1.5 million children which were murdered during the Holocaust. And so the Daffodil Project is putting worldwide 1.5 million daffodils in. And I just wanted to acknowledge the High Point Civic Association, who took this on totally on their own. And as I say, this is the second year that they have done this, and I think this is just a wonderful project, and I just hope that we continue this and we can support this project in the coming years. But I just wanted to bring this to everybody's attention because I don't know how many other people know exactly what it was. I have not been to...
Well, we did one at Hammond Park. And we've done them on Abernathy Greenway.
Right, but I had never been to one. No, I had not. I did it this weekend, Sunday with the... And I actually... it's tough for me to get down there, but I actually planted a couple of bulbs myself. But anyway, it was just really worthwhile.
Right. No, we've had at Hammond, I know Abernathy Greenway, both we've done. So I'm glad. I appreciate you bringing that up, particularly now. Anybody else? All right. Any staff reports? All right. We will. I need a motion to suspend regular order and move into executive session for the purposes of litigation and real estate.
Mayor Paul.
Mr. Paulson.
I move that we suspend regular order and move into executive session for the purposes of real estate litigation.
We have a motion by Mr. Paulson. Is there a second? Second. Been moved by Mr. Paulson, seconded by Mr. DiGiulio, that we suspend regular order and go into executive session for the purpose of real estate and litigation. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, we'll call the question. The question's on the going into executive session. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. We are in executive session. As is our normal course, we will go into executive session. We will come back here in this room, and we will simply return to regular order and then immediately adjourn. There'll be no further business conducted this evening. Mr. Paulson. Mr. Paulson moves to return to regular order, seconded by Mr. DiGiulio. Any discussion? Hearing none, we'll call the question. The question's on return to regular order. All in favor of the motion say aye. Opposed, no. Mr. DiGiulio moves adjournment. Mr. Paulson seconds. All in favor? Opposed, no. We are adjourned.